Riley, heel. Heel, right? Sit. One of the biggest mistakes that people do with e-collars is they dial it up way too high. And this would be true of most dog trainers. I'm not going to say names, there's no reason, but you know, so many times I have a dog come to me that a dog trainer's had problems with. I'm thinking of like Charlie the Akita. He couldn't get the dog to do anything. Strapped an e-collar on the dog and just tried to like use punishment. And that's not how these are worked. That's not how these are worked. This dog, Riley, she's on an e-collar, she's on 8. 8 is lower than a human can even feel it. That's how you want the dog conditioned, so that it just senses it as a negative. That's it. This collar, this mini educator, a human doesn't even feel it till about 15. And if the dog has comfort pads on the collar, on the contact points, then you can't feel it until about 20. That's how you want it. You want the dog just to feel you want to be able to heel. You want to be able to articulate a negative to the dog. Yes, this is a highly effective tool, but if you're going to use it wrong, you're just going to be causing excitement, and excitement is the point where all dogs make mistakes. They bark, lunge, bite, or just don't listen. So you keep the e-collar down real low. And in most cases, you start off with the e-collar sort of higher and it comes down lower as you go. I can't think of a dog that the e-collar that I've trained in the last ever that the e-collar or mini educator would be above 15. You need to dial it down. All dogs on e-collars, it should not be so high that you're creating like overstimulation. That's what you're doing. You're overly stimulating the dog. It's not going to be helpful, okay? The other mistake, the most common mistake that people make, is that everything's going well and they stop putting the collar on the dog. You put the collar, the e-collar, on the dog daily until the dog is fully trained. The reason for this is that the dog becomes collar wise. Okay? So if you take it off too early, the dog knows the collar is off and they start resorting back to their old bad behaviors. So you keep putting it on daily even when you're not using it. For about 5 or 6 months, you keep putting the collar on the dog. It's very important. I'm going to give you a quick lesson on teaching the dog to sit quicker using the e-collar. This is going to be very simple. Like I said, Riley's on 8, okay? It's lower than a human can feel it. Now we're going to make her sit quicker, and we're going to use the e-collar. So when I say sit the first time, I'm going to say sit, no, and when I say no, I'm going to hit the e-collar on the stimulation button, the black one, and I'm going to repeat the command, sit, okay? Watch. Here. Belly heel. Sit, no, sit. Good girl, good girl. See the tail wagging? Okay, now watch this. Now this time, I'm going to say sit, and we'll see how fast she sits. She'll sit faster because I reminded her that the e-collar was on. Hang on. Riley, heel. Riley, sit. Good girl. So if you're having problems getting your dog to be compliant, go out and use the e-collar and maybe use the e-collar twice. Say you use it twice. You say sit and use the e-collar twice. On the third time, give the dog a break. Now, if you do that for a couple of sessions, right, you just take the dog out and just use the e-collar a couple of times. That's it, that's all. And then take the dog out like 2 or 3 days later, do a training session without the e-collar. You're gonna see that the dog's gonna sit quicker. Keep conditioning the dog. Remind the dog that the e-collar is on. You do that at the beginning. That's training. When the dog does it right, tell the dog it did it right. Good girl. Let's do it one more time. We'll do it without the e-collar. Actually, we'll do it with the e-collar, but I'll use the vibration mode. Same thing. I'm indicating a negative. Sit quicker, Riley. Here. Riley! Heel, Riley. Riley, sit. No, sit. That's the vibration mode. Now let's do it again. But I won't use a collar. I'll just say sit, no sit. Heel. Riley, heel. Sit, no, sit. Good girl. That was a good one. Yes. Make sure and send the message to the dog, the correct message. You don't want the dog to sit around and like think about it. They don't really think, but you want the dog to respond quicker. That makes for a healthy, happy dog. If you say sit and the dog's kind of meandering down, that's not good. Use the e-collar, remind the dog that you're in control, and condition it in. Now this is with a caveat. You don't want to overdo it. Use the collar 2 times in a session, a 15-20 minute session, maybe 3. That's it. And for God's sakes, do not dial it. Don't dial it up. See, she's on 8. That's 8. That's so low. Your 5-year-old kid couldn't feel it. It's that low. It's low. Keep the e-collars low. Dialing them up is going to cause pain. It's going to be counterproductive. That's not how you do it. You condition the dog with these commands real low. You can see that the dog will sort of make a response, like a physical response. You don't need an over response. You don't need any kind of vocalization. Now, while we're on the subject of that, real quick, if for some reason you don't have the collar locked, okay? Like, Riley, here. This button will lock it or unlock it. So say it's unlocked and it dials up real high and you hit the button by accident and your dog vocalizes. What do? Give it a little bit of time. Make sure that it's locked. Don't let it happen again, but your dog isn't going to hate you because of it. Does your dog hate you if you accidentally step on the dog's foot? No, they don't. They move on from it. They don't sit there and, ponder thought. So just move away and go back to working the collar, dial it down a little bit lower, wait a minute or two, keep training the dog, and then use the collar again, but at a lower, more normal setting. Riley doesn't hate the e-collar. She doesn't. Riley, drop. It's a good girl, Riley. Look at Riley's tail. Another thing, if you put the e-collar on the dog and the dog is shaking, don't think the dog is being fearful. The dog's probably more than likely just excited and knows that you guys are going to do some training. So if you don't put the e-collar on the daily as suggested, you might see that. So keep putting the collar on the dog. Riley did that. She did that the first day that she came back and put the collar on her, and she's sort of shaking. It wasn't that she was fearful, the dog trusts me, but that she was excited. She knew that we were going to go out and train. She hasn't done that since. You see what I'm saying? It was the first day. She wasn't used to having the e-collar on. Do you understand? Keep putting it on and keep putting it on daily. It should become like a daily ritual for you and your dog. You wake up, put the e-collar on the dog, and like I said, you keep putting the e-collar on the dog until the dog is fully trained, and after it's fully trained, keep putting it on. You might not be using it, but you're still putting it on the dog for about 5 or 6 months. They do make something called a dummy collar, which looks like an e-collar, just has no, it has no electrical parts to it. It's just a plastic shell. And like if you have another dog, you could use the actual e-collar with the dog and put the dummy collar on the dog that is collar-wise, that is trained well. I hope that makes sense.